So welcome to part 2 of the Zendesk QA training webinar program. So this is step 2. So this is how you automate reviews and coach your team effectively. Last time we just kind of focused on getting started. So that's going to be like setting up your scorecards, making sure people are invited and the like. And now it's how can we, once we start to gather those results from the surveys and from the scorecards, sharing that feedback onto our agents. Excellent. So now we're here in the Zendesk QA platform. And the first thing we're going to talk about is actually the scorecards. So in the first session, you probably got a review about how to build a scorecard. I want to go a little bit deeper into the scorecards to talk about some of the advanced settings that we have. So one thing I'll preface is this training and all these trainings actually are best suited for individuals who are Zendesk admins or Zendesk QA admins. At a minimum, you need to be an account manager level in your Zendesk QA account so you can follow along. If you can't, you can still watch, but you're just gonna have to get in touch with your admins. So we're gonna click on settings in the upper right, and we're gonna go to our scorecards. So in your account, when you get started, you will already have a scorecard called the default auto QA. It's just called the default scorecard, which is awesome because on that one, it has 3 manual categories and then all 8 default auto QA categories. So you should already be setting up with auto QA. And once your tickets start to sync, all of the AI insights will be coming in. So that's the first thing. If you aren't seeing that yet, feel free to reach out to support and just touch base with them. Make sure that's all set up. But now we're going to go a step further. So having your default scorecard run is awesome, right? You get all the AI insights. Now you might want to make your own custom scorecard on top of that. And this best practice is your scorecard should have a combination of fully manual categories, meaning categories that have no AI assistance or help. And then you have the auto QA categories too. So I'm going to press, before I go into create, one of the kind of semi-hidden settings for all of your scorecards is here on the settings on your scorecards page. And what I want to highlight underneath here is these are your overall scorecard settings that applies to all. You can turn on or off the emojis. If you don't want the emojis and instead you want numbers, you're going to flip this switch off. And then this is the one I wanted to highlight as the more important setting here. By default, this is unchecked, which means that the reviewers are not allowed to skip any category. They have to submit to every single category. If you want to introduce some flexibility, we're going to flip the switch here. And this says allow people to skip categories. In my recommendation, no matter what, is to check this and then hit this toggle. Specify for each category in scorecard setup. This allows you as the scorecard creator to decide which categories are mandatory and which ones are not mandatory, which I think just makes the whole flow go a lot better. So I wanted to start with that. And now we're going to go into build our own custom scorecard. So I'm going to press create, and then I'm going to click scorecard. So now we have a blank slate in which we're allowed to build our scorecard in. We're going to give it a name. And we'll start at the top with these 2 settings. So for a lot of you, you probably have only one workspace, and that's totally fine. You can get away with having one, and most of the time I recommend using just one. However, and I guess quick recap, workspaces are kind of like sub accounts within your Zendesk QA account. Sometimes you might want to have multiple workspaces. Like if you have totally segmented teams and you want separate scorecards and separate results and separate teams, right? So you might have multiple workspaces. If you do have multiple workspaces, you can toggle on and off which workspaces have access to the scorecard that you're building here, right? So if I made one for team A and I only want team A to be able to use this, I would apply it to that one workspace. And then second, in general, this should most of the time always be fully turned on for all of these. Basically, what this means is if you have AI categories enabled on your scorecard, do you want them to be do you want the AI to be working on them or not in a particular workspace? And most of the time, if you're putting it on the scorecard, you want it to work. So I would just say, make sure these are all checked. So now, when you're making your scorecard, what I think is a good place to start is, if you remember from our previous sessions, on your scorecard can be broken down into sections. We call these category groups. Category groups allows you to visually separate your categories into sections. Plus, that allows you to have more specific reporting, so you can see how the sub parts of your scorecard are performing. And so to create your category groups, I'm going to press the plus sign here, add group section, and I'm going to do this twice actually, because I want to do 2 sections. So the first one I'm going to name, and this is just like an example I'm making off the cuff. So I'm going to call this first one process, and I'm going to call this section soft skills. So now, as I start to add my categories, I'm going to put them into these groupings, right? And this is also going to be important when we talk about some of the scoring aspects of it. So underneath process, I'm going to press plus category. And then this is the category menu. Going into this a bit more advanced. So I guess for us, we have a lot of categories, right? This is our demo account. So I'm able to easily just pull and click on one of these categories from the dropdown. For you all, you probably only have the 8 default auto QA categories. And so if one of those categories fits what you want to add to your scorecard, feel free to click one of those and drop those in, right? That's going to make it easy. It's already built for you. And so let's actually do that over here in soft skills. I'm going to press soft skills plus, and then I'm going to choose spelling and grammar, which is one I recommend everyone uses on every scorecard anyways. I've now added this category here, and let's talk about some of the other features of a category customization. On the right, next, we're going to talk about the scale. So your categories can be 2, 3, 4, or 5 rating scale, right? Also, if you remember, before we got into the scorecard builder, I had you toggle on the feature to skip or not skip categories at the category level. And this is how it's going to be beneficial here, because whenever I click into this section, if you don't see NA, or if you don't choose NA option, right? This means that this category is mandatory and the reviewer cannot skip it. If I choose an NA option, it now means that this category is not mandatory. So the reviewer can skip it. They don't have to fill it out. And yeah, I would say for your most important ones, make those mandatory. And for some of the ones that some of them are not going to be applicable. So just keep that in mind. You don't want to force someone to rate a category if it doesn't make any sense. So I'm going to do spelling and grammar, and I actually am going to make this one mandatory because you are not a good speller. Working our way over one more to the weighting. So quick recap. Your scorecard, the metric at Zendesk QA that we use to rate your agents is called the internal quality score. How internal quality score is calculated is how many categories does the agent get right out of the total number of possible points. So the simplest way, if you have 10 categories and the agent got 9 out of 10 categories right, their IQS is 90%. And how that applies here for the weighting is you get to determine the weight of a category. So this one, I could make it more or less points, and that's going to take into account the total weight here. And like I said, the weighting for how important a particular category is. Best practice and easiest way to get started is just, I'd recommend just making sure that all of your categories add up to a total weight of 100. If you do that, it's the simplest way, because then 10 points is 10%, 5 points is 5%, right? That's just a recommendation. You know, you can do whatever you want. Each category can be weighted between 0 and 100. So it doesn't really matter what you do. What I said is the easiest, but another way is as you're working on it, actually, you'll see when I build a category, I can hover over it and it's going to give me what percentage that category is worth out of the total. Other features of a category. So critical categories. There are two types of critical rating categories. We have fail the whole review and fails the group only, which means if the agent gets a 0 on this category, if it's fail the whole review, they'll get a 0 across the entirety of the scorecard. If you do fails the group only, how it's going to work is if the agent fails this category, they will only fail that category group, that block that we set up. So actually, I'll just apply that. We have conditionality, which is something that you can apply but isn't used that much. And then lastly, the root causes. So whenever you're filling out a scorecard, if you remember from the previous demos, you can add root causes or qualitative reasons for the rating that the reviewer has to choose. So now underneath the spelling and grammar, these are all of the root causes that I could type in to say, what's the reason that you're giving the agent this review or this category rating. So I would actually have to click in here and drop these in one by one, or if I'm making my category, if I'm making my root causes for the first time, I actually type right in here and then press enter. And once I do that, then that makes, that's going to make a new category. It's going to take a little bit to pull up, but that's how you do it. And then lastly, there it goes, type right in here. Over here, do you want the option for other, meaning that the reviewer can add an open text response? So that's what you can do, yes or no. By default, it's single choice, but if you want, you can make it multiple select by toggling here. And then I'm going to press apply. And that's how we've just made our first category underneath our category group. And so you're going to go through that process. So that was the process of choosing an auto QA category, one that was already created by the system. If you want to make a new category that's never been made before, you're going to press plus category. And then we're going to scroll all the way down to the bottom. All the way down to the bottom here, where I see create manual category, right? Manual categories have no AI assistance. Which ones should be your manual categories? These are the ones that that are very specific to your organization and that the AI won't be able to recognize. Like for example, things that are very specific to your process, or especially things that are happening outside of Zendesk QA that you need to check, right? Because the AI only works within the text of the conversation. Everything outside of that, it's not able to review. So let's click create manual category. It's going to open up this menu on the right, and then I'm going to give it a name. So we call it process adherence, and then give it a description. Did the agent follow the process, our process internally? And so I would press create category. But we've done this one before, so I'm not going to, but just we'll use our imagination. Say I press create category. And once I do that, yeah, see, we have a million. So once we do that, it's going to drop in here. And then everything I just reviewed previously about the customization of a category applies here. And then, as I said earlier, as you're building your scorecard, if you hover over a category, it's going to tell you what percentage of the weight the total score is. And then once you're done, you're going to press publish, and then your scorecard goes live. If you have more questions about this, I know I went through a little bit quickly, definitely check out our support article related to creating your scorecard. And we have some YouTube videos too. I'm going to leave this page. We're going to go back to the scorecard menu. I'll talk about what you can view here as well. So first is the scorecards. These are all of your different scorecards. And at a glance, I can see the name, how many categories are attached to that scorecard. I can hover over and see the categories on the scorecard. I can see which workspaces this scorecard is visible in, the status, and then from here, you can edit, duplicate, mark inactive, or delete. The thing I'll call out is most of the time you're not going to want to delete a scorecard, because by deleting the scorecard, you're also going to be deleting any historical reviews that are attached to said scorecard. So if you don't have any reviews on it, that's fine. Like if you're testing, that's cool. But most of the time, I recommend marking it as inactive. Second, now we'll go a little bit more narrow, categories. This is a list of all of the categories across all of our scorecards. And then finally, root causes. The root causes you can see on top here, all 133. And that's going to be the advanced setup of your, scorecards. So now we're going to move to a feature called assignments. So let's imagine you've created your scorecards and now you're ready. You create your scorecards, you've set them up, and you're confident in now that this is the process that you want to rate your agents on, and you want to push this out to your reviewers. You are probably in a position that you want to track the performance of your reviewers. So there needs to be some accountability. Accountability and tracking to ensure that your reviewers are hitting their review goals per week, right? You were supposed to do 10, but you only did 5. You were supposed to review each of your agents, but you missed a couple, right? Before the solution, you have no visibility, but the assignments feature within here gives you that full visibility. So I'm going to walk you through a preview of what a completed assignment looks like. Then I'll go into the builder. So once you've completed your assignment, this is what's going to look like for the reviewers. So I'm a reviewer. I have a team of 5 agents, and I need to now do my homework and fill out my reviews. I'm going to go to the tasks section. From tasks, I'm going to go to your assignments. And underneath your assignments, you can see all of these with the exclamation point. This is my homework. These are the reviews I have to do. So I'm going to click here, assign to Zach. And so the thing that's unique about this is, if you remember from our last session, we talked about reviewing from the conversations view, which has no tracking. It's just like full autonomy. Here, though, if you want to track and have some gamification and accountability, I need to do my reviews from within the assignment section to get credit. So you'll see here, my goal is 5 reviews. These are my 5 reviews. And then this process is exactly the same. I'm going to click on the review. I'm going to review it. And then on the upper right, I'll click my scorecard. And one brief aside, let's go to our main scorecard. The benefits of having, as I talked about earlier, a combination of auto QA enabled categories and manual categories is your AI enabled categories are going to be pre-filled out for you by the AI. But I will call out that this is simply a suggestion and guidance. It's still your responsibility as the reviewer to review these categories and then submit it, right? Because regardless of whether or not you agree with the AI or you disagree with it, when you press submit at the end, that's your human submitted score. That's your human approved scorecard submission, right? So the AI is here to guide you, but it's still your responsibility to be reviewing and answering. But it's nice because instead of like taking the time, like I'd have to really scour here to see like spelling and grammar mistakes, but it says it's perfect. So nice. This is probably perfect for spelling and grammar. But I'm going to review here process adherence. This is one that is specific to me and has no AI guidance. I'll flip that as an up. And let's just say I'm going through product knowledge is good. Solution accuracy is good. So I'll press submit. And now the scorecard has been submitted. You'll see here now that I've got 1 of 5 done. This has been checked off as approved. And that's how the assignment review process goes. The one piece I'll call out that can be confusing for the one thing that can be confusing for reviewers within here is you'll see that this one, I have to review Sarah. I can't change the reviewee. I have to choose Sarah. And the reason is one of the benefits of the assignment as you as the admin are creating the assignment, and then it mandates who needs to be reviewed. And that's how you can ensure, that's how the system ensures that each agent is getting enough review love, right? Because without it being locked down, then the person could, accidentally just keep skipping Sarah and not reviewing her. So that's like the general bones of an assignment. So let's now go into the builder side, the admin side of this whole thing. So I'm going to go into our users, bots, and workspaces, which is kind of like settings part 2. I think most of the time, most settings actually probably live underneath here. I'm going to come into this section. We're going to go to assignments. And from the assignments, this is my assignment library, all of my running assignments. And then I'm going to press create assignment to make a new one. You're going to choose agent QA. Basically, this is an assignment to ensure that your reviewers are reviewing agents. In the future, would you see coming soon, we're going to have reviewer QA. So assignments so that there's a feature called grade the grader where you will be reviewing the reviewers. So we'll talk about that more in a future session when this comes to life in the platform. For now, we're going to click on agent QA. And I guess if you want to learn more, click there. All right, so now we're in the builder, the assignment builder. I'm going to give it a name. And then we're going to go to the settings. So one of the pieces I didn't say yet about assignments that's unique and cool is you get to set the cadence in which the assignment is delivered to your reviewers. So basically each cadence, each week, each day, week, bi-weekly, or monthly, whatever cadence you set, a new batch of reviews is assigned to the reviewer. And that reviewer has the amount of time between the sessions to do their homework. So like I said, the options are daily, weekly, bi-weekly, or monthly. I always recommend weekly, and I'd say 99% of customers use weekly. The benefits of weekly is that each week, the reviewers get a new set of assignments, and it keeps your assignments fresh, right? If you do a month-long assignment, that's fine, but it's only one sync per month. So if you want to keep on top of it, I recommend weekly. So we'll do weekly, and then we're going to decide which day of the week we want this to start, and that then means which day the assignment will refresh each week. So let's choose Monday. We'll have our assignment start next Monday, the 25th. The time zone, I'll do it selfishly for me. So in Mountain Time, Denver, I want a new assignment to come into me Monday mornings at 8 a.m. Next, we're going to move to the reviewers and the reviewees. So from this, we're able to determine who is doing the reviews and who is going to be reviewed. Here we come to a little bit of a fork in the road. There are 2 ways in which you can make an assignment. If you have a group of reviewers who can review a group of reviewees, you can do just one assignment, right? So it's like me, Abdullah, Rachel, Sarah, all of us together, we can review our team of 40 agents. It doesn't matter who we review. So one assignment, that works. However, back to my example, if I'm a reviewer and let's say team lead, I've got 5 agents, I'm only allowed or only supposed to review my team. We're going to make an assignment per reviewer. So let's go with that example. I'm going to set myself up as the reviewer. I'm going to review users. and then who is going to be reviewed. So I choose here my team. So let's click here. And just for simplicity, I'm going to choose one of the groups. As a reminder, groups are Zendesk QA groups that you can customize right from here. And the benefits of creating a group is that you can multi-select folks with one click. And it's beneficial for your assignments, for filtering, for dashboards. Yeah, those are the three. So let's click on the agents. So I want to review the agents. Oops, I flipped to bot on accident. So users, and then we'll choose agents. And then exclude reviewees. So let's say that I also handle reviews and I want to make sure I don't review myself. I'm just going to go ahead and then click Zach and just make sure that I don't review myself. And then at the bottom here, which type of user should be selected as the reviewee? 1 second. Okay, great. Sorry, my headphones disconnected for a second. So you have to determine here which user should be selected as the reviewees. And if you remember from that example where Sarah was locked down as the person to be reviewed, you decide who is the default reviewee. So you can say the most active agent, the person who comments the most on the ticket, any participant, or the assignee, the person who's assigned the ticket. Next, we'll move to the conditions. And so now it's really cool because by default, it's going to have the reviewers review any ticket unfiltered. But now you can make very customizable assignments that is going to deliver a set of a set of tickets to the reviewers. So let's say I want to have my reviewers, most importantly, reviewing our agents where we see a DSAT. So I'm going to come down to this filter option here. We're going to go to CSAT score. I'm going to click bad. And so now it's only going to deliver up DSAT reviews to my reviewers. That's one I recommend a lot. Other pieces that I'd say are very, I'll say mandatory, but very key in my recommendation for how you should set up your assignment. So first thing you should do is underneath the review and feedback, we're going to choose review status is not reviewed. And that makes sure that you aren't reviewing a ticket that's already been reviewed. That's one thing. Second is at the top, we have our date range. So basically each week, if we're doing weekly, each week a new batch of assignments is delivered to the reviewers. But when that assignment syncs, it's going to pull from the date range. So even though it's on Monday, if we have it set like this, it's going to pull from tickets that were created in the last 30 days. And I want to, if you want to make sure that you're up on the most recent tickets, my recommendation is we're going to change the date range. We're going to go to close date in the last 7 days. Apply that, and I'll remove this created date. So now every Monday, the sync will occur. It's going to only look at tickets that were closed in the last 7 days. So now we have closed in the last 7 days, bad CSAT, and then the reviewed status is not reviewed. And as you're working on it, take a look at the preview on the right side. This just makes sure that you're not making your assignment too strict, because if it's too strict, there will be nothing to review, because this is and logic for filtering. I'll say bonus points. If you want to start to lean on the AI insights, we have the spotlight feature here. So now you could say, like, I want to look for conversations where churn risk was identified, escalation requested, SLA breach, sentiment. That's just a little preview, but poke around, try it out, see how that works. Lastly, we're going to talk about the goal. So the goal is how you how you set the goal to ensure that your reviewers are hitting the review goals. You can set up your assignment so that reviewers can choose conversations from a shared pool. So it's like me and Abdullah, we can just pick and choose the conversations we want to, or you can do it so that it's assigned conversations. So the assignment, the conversation is assigned to me and I have to do that review. And then the review goal, reviewers, if you're doing a group goal, must collectively review a set number or percentage of the total conversations. We can then specify each reviewer must do a set number of reviews, or you can have it based on the reviewee. Each reviewee must have a minimum number of their total conversations reviewed. So like if I have 5 agents, I want to make sure that each agent has 2 reviews done per week. The thing to note that gets a little tricky, here it says each reviewer must have each reviewee must have a minimum number of the total conversations reviewed, meaning it's a minimum. So if I have 5 agents, it could be more than 10. So if you want to cap it, I recommend doing this one, a set number of reviews, because then you can even specify the minimum reviews. Once you've completed this, you press create assignment. The assignment goes live. As we talked about in the beginning example, the reviewers now go to the tasks portion. They do their homework. And then finally, we're going to take a look at the dashboard. From the assignments view, this is where you're able to hold the team accountable and make sure that they've hit the review goals per cycle. So from the dashboard, upper left, assignment dashboard, assignment name is assigned to Zach. We'll see how I've been performing. We'll choose the cycle. So like I said, each week it refreshes. So let's see how I performed over the last 3 weeks. Not good. So over the last 3 weeks, I had 10 reviews to do. I didn't do any of my goals, any of my reviews. So I can see my goal completion rate. If I was doing more, it's going to give me a total number, and it's going to show you the completion rate. Plus, if you have other reviewers, if we come down here, we can see how those individuals are doing, right? And so that's how you would set up the assignment, have them do it, and then you have the dashboard for accountability. And now we're going to transition into our coaching features. Coaching is how you can coach your agents. So we were talking about reviewer performance. Now let's go back to agent performance. I want to coach them on how they're, on how they're performing. The scorecards are just the first piece. It's awesome to fill out scorecards. It's great that you're sending the scorecards to the agents. But if they're not making improvements, then this whole feedback process is for nothing, right? So that's why we have really nicely integrated into the solution our coaching platform. So let me walk you through like a full end-to-end example of how I would want to coach one of my agents. So I'm going to click here on this first ticket. Let's say I'm going through the classic process of reviewing this conversation. So we're going to go scroll through here. I'm going to look at the metadata. I can see here that the assignee was Chris. And I think to myself, I'm meeting with Chris this week. I need to, I want to review this with him when we have our one-on-one. What I'm going to do is from this conversations view, in the upper part of the toolbar, I'm going to click on the pin, the push pin icon, and that's going to open up the pin menu. I'm going to pin this underneath the user. So this was Chris agent. The thing to note is pins are here. Pins are here for your own tracking. So even though unlike the scorecards where I submit a scorecard to Chris, when I'm pinning a conversation, I'm pinning it under Chris, under his folder for my own reference. So that's why you can see here, only you can see what you pin. So that's why I can put in this note, a personal note to myself, remember to talk with Chris about XYZ in our one-on-one. So that's the first piece. If you do want to make the pin collaborative, then you can mention someone in the comments. Like maybe I want Chris's manager, Abdullah. We'll say, Abdullah, please review this. So then now the pin is collaborative and not just for my own reference. But I'll just delete this again. So now it's underneath Chris for me. I'm going to press pin conversation, and now the pin is saved. I can now head over to the coaching portal. I'm going to click on the graduation cap on the left-hand side. We're going to go to coaching, and we're going to go to pins. Underneath pins is where you can see all of the pins that you've ever done on any of your agents. So I do this all the time for our trainings. So you can see I have a lot, and it's cool. It's broken down alphabetically by the agent name and then the pins number that lives underneath them. So let's take a look at Chris agent. Underneath Chris, these are the different conversations I've pinned over our time together. So that's the first part of pins. Now we're going to build on this for our coaching one-on-one session. Underneath sessions is where you're able to have a one-on-one session with your agents. This is the dashboard. I'm a manager, so I have like more access to see all of the sessions that are going on. Depending on your level, you may see more or less sessions here. But more importantly, we're going to go into creating a session. I'm going to press plus session. And then we're going to choose the coachee. So the person who needs to be coached. We're going to say it's Chris. And then we'll say the coach, which is the person facilitating the coaching session, which is me. We'll give it a name and then the date this session is going to occur. Maybe I'm meeting with Chris on Friday. So I'll put the 22nd. So I'm going to press create. And now once I've done that, it will open up the one-on-one doc for Chris and I. We're going to focus our energy on the right-hand side first to talk about this really cool at-a-glance metrics. So I can see the metrics, and I can see for Chris, his IQS, CSAT score, and how he's performing on each of the categories. If I click feedback, if someone has left a review on Chris recently in the last 30 days or commented, we'll see some stuff here. Yeah, so we'll just leave this for now. And then finally, pins. This is where it kind of comes full circle. I pinned my the conversation for Chris. I said I wanted to reference in our one-on-one. Here's the pin that I just did today. I'm going to click add to, and I'll add it to this session here. And now it's attached to the one-on-one. And so if I'm meeting with Chris virtually or in person, I'm going to click on this. It's going to open up the conversation in a separate window, and we can then do some nice coaching on that conversation. Other pieces I can edit and create and customize as the coach, the facilitator. I can set up some talking points and notes. As a reminder, anywhere we see an open text section, you can utilize a template. So I made a template for myself called a coaching template. And these are the things I always want to address in our agenda. So I can then do that and press save. We'll come down to action items. So these are actions that can be completed by the coach or the coachee. So my recommendation is say the name of the person who's responsible. So Zach, send over performance report, and then Chris, review report. Finally, here we have personal notes. Personal notes, both you and the agent have personal notes. They are only visible to you, and no one can see into anyone's personal notes, even if you're a manager level. Once you've completed your session, you're going to mark it as done, and that's for tracking to make sure that you're actually doing the sessions that you say. And then the last piece here, which is pretty cool, is anytime you have the same combination of coach and coachee, you then have it'll drop into the same thread. so I can see all of the historical conversations I had with Chris. Excellent. For the sake of time, I'm gonna skip it, but I just want to tell you there is a feature called quizzes. Quizzes allows you to create quizzes to test individuals on their learning within Zendesk QA. But I really want to cover calibration with you, so I want to make sure that we do that. So going back to tracking reviewer performance, one of the realities of this QA process is it's going to be subjective, right? It's going through the lens of a human. And with that in mind, you want to make sure that this process is as objective as possible and make sure that all your reviews are aligned. You know, when we say like, this is our empathy or this is process, what is a 4 versus a 5? You know, we need to make sure everyone is grading fairly. So what you can do is you can turn on a feature called the calibration sessions. By default, it's turned off. So to turn it on, we're going to click upper right, users, bots, and workspaces. We're going to go to our workspace. We're going to click on calibration. And then from calibration, we're going to flip the switch on. I know I'll go through that quick. I would check back at the support article if you need some guidance on getting there. What this page is all about is the visibility of reviews. So like you can toggle on or off the visibility of previously given reviews. So reviews that were done prior to the calibration session. And then this is the visibility of calibration reviews, the reviews done within the calibration session. As I said, this whole process, we're trying to, test the reviewers to make sure everyone's aligned. Best practice here is just make the visibility of any review as limited as possible because we want me to be unbiased. I don't want to be affected, which is why actually when you go to do a calibration session, auto QA is turned off. So I can't get any help from auto QA on how I should respond. So calibration, turn it on, check the visibility. That's step 1. Step 2 is we're going to go back to tasks where our assignments section lived. We're going to go to calibrations at the bottom. I'm going to open this up so I can see my calibration sessions because we need to make our calibration container. Within the calibration container, I can add conversations that our team of reviewers will review. And the thing to note that's unique about calibration reviews is they're not real reviews. They're test reviews. So why I'm saying that is like, let's say that Chris is the person that we are all reviewing. When I leave a calibration review, it doesn't get submitted to Chris. It doesn't affect Chris's IQS. So it's like a safe space to be honest. And that's how we can then check the results. So I have this open because I want to press plus here. I'm going to click on create calibration session. We're going to call it, we'll say I'm doing it for next month. Now we'll do August reviews, August calibration. And then the due date is September 1st. So people have the rest of the month to review these conversations in August. So I'm going to press create session. And then you'll see on the left-hand side here, August calibration was added. And then this is the container I'll add the conversations to. For account cleanliness, I'm just going to delete this because we have these other sessions that exist. And then the final part, like as an admin, is the admin is choosing the conversations that will be chosen to be reviewed by the reviewers. So let's go back to our conversations view. And this is something that I'd recommend, like if you want, you can create a filter and then just dig into it and then choose the sessions as your in one go, or you could make this kind of part of your daily review practice. If there's a particular conversation that you think would be good, like it's kind of tricky, you know, maybe problematic, or you recognize that the reviewers weren't getting it right, this could be a good choice for us to choose a calibration session. So we'll say that this one's already reviewed. Let's see. Yeah, Cooper, maybe he didn't get this just right. So let's just choose this one as a calibration session. I'm going to press the crosshair icon. I'm going to add this to a calibration session. So let's do August 2025. And now you could do just one conversation or multiple. And then the final part is it's the responsibility of the reviewers to come into this section underneath tasks, come down to calibrations, go to the calibration session, and then leave the reviews from within here. The one thing to note that is a little bit tricky is unlike the assignments, calibrations are not assigned. So there are no in-platform or out-of-platform notifications. You're going to have to tell your team, hey, I just dropped a new calibration session. Please complete it by the due date, which is the end of the month. So I'm going to click on this one. I'm the reviewer. I'm going to go through this process. As I said, there's no auto QA help. So I need to fully complete this manually. Click my way through. And then once I'm done, I'd press submit. Once I've done that, my calibration review has been submitted. And then finally, the fun part, you get to set up a virtual or a real room where we all get together and we review the ticket and make sure that we're all aligned. And so we can do that in the dashboard. So I'm going to click on the dashboard icon in the upper left. We're going to come down here to calibration. From calibration, we are going to choose the session that we want to check out. So we'll do 2025 calibrations. And then I'm going to scroll down a bit further because this is what I want to show you this example. So now it's really cool. This is the scorecard. This is the ticket that we're reviewing. And then we get to go category by category and make sure that we're all aligned. How my clients typically do this? In the beginning, honestly, some people are like, what cadence should I do for calibration session? I'd say in the beginning, once you have your scorecard solidified, I would start that in the beginning and do a calibration session and make sure everyone's aligned. And then maybe after that, you could do it 2 weeks later. And then over time, as people become more aligned, you could have the sessions less. I'd say at a minimum, I think quarterly is good. Yeah. But what you would do from this calibration is you're going to go category by category, line by line. If everyone agrees, we don't have to talk about it, right? We all agree, no need for discussion. But however, let's say we come down here to solution offered, like half of us said the solution was offered, half of us didn't. So let's understand why. Let's ask these people why they rated this way, why these people rated this way. And so by the end of it, we should be calibrated, we should be aligned, and that way then no matter who is doing the reviews, we're giving our agents the best feedback and the best reviews for their personal development. So that's where we're going to stop for today. I'm going to stop sharing my screen. I'm going to check out the Q&A and see if there's anything that I should answer live. If you haven't asked any Q&A questions yet, and if you'd like to, please feel free to drop it in the Q&A. Okay, great. Abdullah, I think it looks like you answered a lot of these. Is there any that you think I should elaborate on?
Taking a closer look now.
Okay. Yeah, no
pressure. A lot
pressure.
of them I think would be valuable as feedback. The one instance is, I believe, Ashcon asked this earlier, was they don't see any tickets syncing in from their Zendesk instance.
Mm-hmm.
I assumed it was a connection thing, but anything else that maybe you could speak to that could be causing tickets not to pull into Zendesk QA?
Yeah, so what I would recommend, so let's see. I'll probably just share my screen again and we can go through the settings just in case. All right. So whenever you first get started with Zendesk QA, it should force you into making your connection from Zendesk into Zendesk QA. If you aren't an admin, then you aren't able to do this. You aren't able to bypass that screen. That's the first thing I'd call out. Second, let's say you make this connection, but it's not working still. You're going to have to check it from the settings. So I'm going to go into our settings. I'm going to go to the section here called connections. From connections, you're going to have, like we have a bunch because of our browser extension, but you're going to come down here to your Zendesk instance. And I'm going to click on the pencil icon. And from here, let's see, where do people get caught up? I'd say the most frequently where I see clients who make the connection, but they don't see any data coming in is at the bottom here, there is this only sync conversations that, and you can say include or exclude a certain type of tags or groups. If you typed in the wrong tag or you accidentally put something in here, that's going to stop. That's going to stop all tickets from coming in and only a set will come, a certain type will come in. So my recommendation would be to check in here. If you have this, you may just need to remove this and then all Zendesk tickets will come in.
Thanks, Zach. Yeah. I think there's a question that also came in from Tracy in case you'd like to answer it live.
Sure. Let's see. Okay. What is the threshold for auto QA scoring spelling and grammar? I have team members that the auto QA scores a thumbs up, but 2 to 3 spelling or grammar errors have been identified. Is there a certain number of errors allowing them to still receive a thumbs up? Yeah, that's a great question. So I will say there's a little bit of there's no specific answer to say like exactly how the sausage gets made when it comes to spelling and grammar. What I recommend though, is I also have heard this from clients is they're like, hey, there's a decent amount of errors, but I'm still getting a thumbs up. What's the deal? My recommendation is, especially so most of the time when we're talking about categories on a scorecard, I say that the more binary categories, the better. So like thumbs up, thumbs down only. However, for spelling and grammar, I'm passionate that you should be using a 5-point scale because that creates more nuance. And it's going to be like they had a few errors, that's a 4. That a few more, that's a 3, that's a 2. If you don't do the 5, it's just going to be like halfway down the middle. And so I think that's going to be like a thumbs up for more spelling mistakes than you probably want. So from your scorecard, let's say it's from your default scorecard, go to spelling and grammar. We're going to click here and just make sure that it's the 5-point scale. That would be my recommendation. Yeah, because there's like, it's pretty sweet how advanced the spelling grammar thing works because it's not just like, if it's 5, they lose 1. If it's this many, lose 1, because it takes into account how much text it's reviewing too, right? So if you have a lot of the same number for 1 comment versus 100 comment, it takes that into account. So that's why I can't give you a direct quantitative answer. However, if you do 5-point scale, that should make it more intuitive and maybe more in line with your expectations. And so with that, we're at 3 minutes left. If you have any other questions about Zendesk QA, please feel free to reach out to our support team. They're going to be able to help you. And I apologize for maybe the whiplash of going in and out of screen share. I'm going to go one more time to one screen share, and then I promise I'll be done. I just want to show you that always, if we're talking about like support from the support team, coming into from your Zendesk QA account, in the upper right-hand corner, we're going to click on the question mark. First off, go to our knowledge base. We have an excellent knowledge center in Zendesk. It's broken down into specific categories or sections for Zendesk QA. If you're still not finding any help there or things aren't clear, like feel free to comment on our articles. If after that you're still having some issues, if you click on the chat with us, that's going to open up this bubble first, and then I can click the bubble, and that way then you can start a chat conversation with your Zendesk support team. If anyone ever says like, create a ticket with Zendesk, what that means is start a chat via the platform, and then that conversation can continue. Yeah. So that's it for now. Our recording will be sent out, I think within a week is whenever it has to get processed by the team. So look out for that. Reach out to our support team if you have any other questions. And lastly, we do have our part 3 in 2 weeks. So make sure that you join us live for that session, because joining live for these sessions is another great way to ask questions. That's it for now. Thank you so much for your time and for your questions and attention. And we will catch you at the next one. Have a good one, and enjoy your fall activities when you get to them. Bye, everyone.